poems, and then I wrote like 1.5, and then I was like, I can't really decide which is more okay. So I'll just read them both. Since it's 1.5, I figured that was like almost a whole poem. All right, everybody ready? Yeah. First one has a title, Is Stan Blue? Imagine that blue. Imagine you, wrapped in your glittering cocoon, sleepy in your hotel room, sick from travel. You peek out over the blurry embroidery. Television is on. Women in sequin spandex practicing strange aerobics on the seaside. You are very, very far from home. Far from Jesus Camp, Ohio. The girls tripping along the campground like deer. Boys hot on their trail and holy, heads bent and hoping. Your forearms flex as you pull the blanket over your head. Squealing sequins muffled, the sound of blood in your ears. There was a girl in the cafe this morning, so young, coltish, and pretty. She talked to the boys so easily. Her hair streaming past her ears, the mother's hand on her shoulder. This is the part where I have to depart. The choke growing stronger in my own throat until there is no other way to release it. Turn over in bed and whisper for my mother, old lovers, try to find the name for it. That's the first one, and then this is point 5. Its title is 132 revision 1 million. So, I need to like.
It's a small room.
It's really small. You need a cigarette? Yeah, like right now. Cool. I had to sit down in a stranger's drive and read it again. Our lives so small, the golden arches unassailed by this truth. They stand tall and insistent that everything is all right. All right where it should be. Still, you went looking for something bigger, even, than all that. More elusive. A light so small and bright you could fold it into pockets. Hold it in one hand. I think of the fish at the very bottom of the sea, some eyeless in that endless dark, and some glowing. Their bodies the only lamplight they need.
You want to open that door for just a second? Let a little cool air just come in for just a second. Okay, yeah, just. Okay, on your handouts, you'll see on the back that. Someone, please grab someone. Thanks. All right. Oh, this is kind of nice. On the back, you'll see that there is a bunch of reviews by Angela Sawyer. And speaking of unpublished poets, her reviews are so good. Even if you have no context, you know nothing about anything, I strongly suggest just reading Angela's review of records, just because it's good for you. She's an amazing writer. Okay, so I just want to say a few things before I start. Again, the snacks, which I'm obsessed with. But I also wanted to say that I wrote these in the spirit, I guess you would say, like, you know, some of you are familiar with Rumi, I suppose, that gentleman, that poetic gentleman, who, I've got to say, whenever I read the translations, I'm always like, did he really say that? It's always so unrelentingly wise and interesting, incisive, and you wonder. But let's say it is. He didn't write about his symbol or turkey, but he wrote about life. However, it's all like big, and it's about being alive, and just, you know, gigantic openness in this life. So, like, in some ways, I guess what I'm trying to say is that these are kind of pedestrian in comparison. I think there's something romantic about travel. There's something romantic about traveling alone. I traveled alone when I took this trip. I think there's something romantic about Istanbul. I think there's something romantic about being a woman traveling alone and sort of like casting yourself as a heroine or something, or an adventuress or something. And all that sort of dismal or lonely or boring stuff can get kind of lost. So I guess in this, with all my cornball love of the old world, you know, I chased a man down in a museum in Rome because he was wearing his deer stalker. You know, like, I love that shit. I'm totally susceptible to it. But at the same time, I feel an urge to demystify this romantic factor. So I hope that made a little bit of sense before I begin. So, okay. Would you keep track? Since we're in a small room, I'm abiding by the Geneva Conventions on poetry reading, so I'm going to probably read for like 20 minutes. We okay with that? Okay, I don't want anybody starts freaking out. Get out! I understand. Okay, so every place I go to on a trip abroad, I look for squirrels. I had a French boyfriend once who told me there were no squirrels in France. Such things have bothered me ever since, so this first poem is looking for squirrels. Before the hurdling myself full on into touristing can commence, the nearby fancy park shall be investigated to assess the squirrel situation. And there are none. Instead, I find clusters of murmuring men in matching overalls, planting pansies and tulip bulbs, while feral cats dart among wooden benches. The palace turrets loom over a wall, so imposing it is begging to be sketched. No one passes me as I trundle along the slanting path, which ends with a soldier, quite young, standing by the wall. I ask him about squirrels, making bouncy squirrel motions with my hand, and he tries to understand. But it is awkward, hampered as he is by our language barrier, and his intense politeness, which is perhaps to compensate for the machine gun he is holding. I abandon the squirrel line of questioning and nod when he gives me directions to Topkapi, which both he and I know I wasn't asking for, but it is a demonstration of goodwill, and I thank him. I walk eyeing Topkapi turrets, thinking this park next door must have seen a lot of action over the years. And what if some sort of developmental fluid, like that used at crime scenes to detect blood, what if one existed like that to allow you to see traces of moonlight assignations? Sultans' consorts ravening with ambition, passing on secret love letters, underlings dashing behind the wall, desperate to hold back laughter from some goofy thing their weird boss did, a cook who lost a child, or two, or three, or four, hiding under a bush, biting her apron, willing herself not to find oblivion in the Bosphorus, a chief eunuch, stealing a moment away from the harem, smoking, thinking of his dad in Khartoum, and what would he think of him now? I don't know. What do I know? Maybe none of these things happened. The Bosphorus glitters, so blue, so spectacular, and perhaps from some aspects, my ignorance does too. For even in the 15 hours I've been here, I can sense it around me, a moving river. All that I don't know, won't ever know, and don't know, I'll never know. I'm sure those were pansies those guys in the overalls were planting, though. Alright. This is about a young man. Young man, young man, young man. You wear your hotel blazer with the collar flexed up and have a raffish, reflexive smile, your eyes fixed and glassy, bore into mine, or the pan of pastries you were replacing at the buffet or the air in front of you. Young man, you are intent generally, head bent as if against a gale. Are you English? How long are you here for? Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a husband? Tell me. Young man, young man, young man, I believe you may work here 12 or 14 or 16 hours a day. 6 or 7 days a week, clerk, bellhop, dog's body, breakfast buffet sentinel. It is my birthday. You must celebrate. I am 17 today. You are not 17, which is fine. But why do I find it so inexpressibly depressing that you toss out this morsel as allurement? As I wrestle with Turkish Nutella to make a breakfast sandwich, I watch the gulls paddle on the terrace roof, unmoved by the view before them. The city stacked high, with rivers and bridges and boats strewn at its feet. And then I overhear the middle-aged American guy lecture you while you refill the coffee terrain on where and how to buy the best pistachios in Istanbul. You compliment him on his acuity, ask questions, each more unctuous than the last, proving to yourself and your coworker standing beside you, holding a demolished pastry tray with a carefully bland expression. With each question and remark, proving this man's complacency can't be shattered. And you're right, it can't. My birthday was nothing without you. Where were you today? I like you so much. I dropped 6 Turkish lira into the small locked wooden box by the buffet. Tips is written in bleeding magic marker on the side. Culture, language, gender, workplace, Boston, Istanbul, tablecloths, seagulls, crumbs. I waited for you. Come meet me later for coffee. What is your room number? Young man, I cannot seem to make you understand that this is neither modesty, nor restraint, nor decorum, nor morals, nor scruples, nor shyness. What are you doing tonight? Let us have coffee. Where do you want to meet? Coming back after dark, tired with a day of rigorous touristing behind me, I find you standing outside the hotel doors in the neon light. You hail me. You have your friend play me a song on his cell phone. You sing along. A little drunk, I think. I briefly wonder if Istanbul is indeed a 98% Muslim country, what your mother would think of this. And you ask me if I know what the lyrics are saying, but then tell me before you can even get your own question out. I am loyal to you. You sing along. I am loyal to you. Your eyes searching mine in theatrical pining. I am loyal to you. Next morning, you take my hotel key from my table when I get up for a second cup of coffee. Your coworker gets it back for me, hands it over with a measured glance, a mixture of apology and scrupulous lack of acknowledgement of what he is apologizing for. He is loyal to you, I see. Young man, young man, young man, I readily concede you are handsome, and if you go to clubs, I'm sure you're plenty popular, and other ladies staying at this hotel must have taken you up on your offers, but to me, you look like a starveling baby egret with green, globular eyes. Come, let's make a party. See me after work. Where are you going? You break my heart. What are your plans? Young man, young man, young man, it occurs to me that my anger is not just because of your persistence and the completely transparent and credulity-straining guilt bonds of heartbrokenness you're lobbing at me, but because somehow it seems like you are asking so little of this world. Now, I could be wrong about that last. What the hell do I really know about you or your life? Still, why are you doing this? You are breaking my heart. My heart is broken by you. As Marx said, overworked young people of the world, I want you to prosper. I want you to feel your beauty and power, but for the love of God, piss off. How are we doing on time?
You got plenty.
Sorry, these are all kind of long, but that's just how it is. Do you want to hear about being sick or being depressed? Sick.
Yes. Yes.
Sick? Sick? Okay. I got that. All right. All that careful toothbrushing for naught. Water can make you sick? Under the cheap maroon and gold comforter, I consider its tired tassels, wondering if this and the cursory, vaguely heraldic surface embroidery are supposed to suggest something sultanic to us tourists. Kind of does, actually, to me. I'm aware, after the fierceness of this microbiological attack recedes, an acute case of the sulks await to take its place. Man, I did so want to see butcher this word. Ephesus? Ephesus. Thank you. Ephesus. And to be missing my two new pastries a day edict, and all those gorgeous stewed vegetables and meats, the best sort of grandma food, here is almost tragic. But all those things are horrors to me now. The next morning, the sun blasts into the room, glossy, insisting I feel better. By afternoon, I decide, I believe this, and shamble out. Two young German, Russian gazelles click by in heels. Watch out for the Turkish boys, advises a handsome Turkish lad with a sort of gorgeous complacency as he smokes outside his carpet store. They are very, very bad. I find a cafe, mercifully only a few blocks away, but hurdling the language gap for weak tea proves surprisingly difficult. I try and fail several times to conjure up a gesture as a young waiter eyes me with the cautious manner of a journeyman zookeeper, attending to the moody beasts that are tourists. And who knows what sudden strange thing they might do next. Whilst I wait, I, like a chic Turkish couple sitting next to me, watch the giant TV where beefy Roman gentlemen are jumping off a bridge for some celebration. The girl and I exclaim at the exact same time, in the exact same way, at the guy who flips twice. The sales pitch bandied about at the next table of Turkish, Italian, and or Eastern European men seems to be going well. Their nonchalant shrugs and uniformly expensive spy movie leather jackets make it a little hard to tell nationality. I'm not missing anything here. Okay. The horns and calls from the harbor sneak in when the door opens. The ferry to Prince's Islands doesn't have me on it. This was going to be my sop for not getting to Ephesus. But no sop here. Just bitter tea. I had more sugar, brainstorming for $1 million idea to harvest the jellyfish, teeming in the Bosphorus. But nothing. Outside, a stray golden retriever, the sort that would not be out of place in a suburb of Vermont, trots down the sidewalk. 4 young women in hijab, I'm saying that right, laughing. One almost doubled over a guy carrying milk crates, rabbits, and a rooster for sidewalk divination. A German tourist, stooped by his backpack, stops, almost directly in front of me, examines his simmet, a piece of bread, and, with caution, bites into it. He nods. He finds it good. My nausea, however, goes on alert, clanging with alarm. I consider going back to the hotel, but this sun, it will not waver. It says, "You feel better." Then its attention turns to the stone wall out the window, as does mine. The walls, the walls, the walls. The walls are really different here. One more? Find a not quite so long. How about international worry? International upset of embassy and whatnot. Terrorism. Things. So, this is called decoding. The email arrived with the headline, "Emergency message to U.S. citizens from the U.S. Embassy." An alertness born of curiosity and alarm and all those Hitchcock movies unfurled as I scrolled down. Due to recent airstrikes on the Turkey-Iraq border, the Department of State advises U.S. citizens traveling or residing in Turkey to be alert to the potential for terrorist-related violence and or violent protests after the protest in Taksim Square last week. Now, the day before, I'd finally made my way to Taksim Square, and at a cafe pointed to a walnut nest pastry, a pistachio stacked like cannonballs pastry, and an improbable hairy pastry. The waiter entombed them in plastic wrap, presenting them to me like a bouquet, and on a nearby bench, I sat and munched, staring at the Monument of the Republic, and the tea sellers, and traffic and tram, and kids, and carts, and taxis, and flower purveyors, Oh, the joy, the privilege to just stare when one is traveling. And I'd sensed no menace, no unrest, nothing but bustle and commerce in the air. Now, one might point out, and they'd be right, sure, I can't read or understand a word anybody is saying, but still, everyone just seems plain old busy. For however little I know Turkish, I am fluent in administrative speak, and able to make my way around many similar dialects. So I reread the embassy email considering, what is the saying in embassy-ese? What does this warning really mean? My best guess, don't be a noodle. And if you are, we told you not to be. I think I'll stop there.
One more.
Long one.
Long blabby one? Long mordant blabby one?
Yeah, go back to that depressed one.
Okay, I got it.
That sounds great.
I got you. I don't think I said thank you for coming. I can't say how much I appreciate y'all showing up on a Monday night. It means an awful lot to me. So, and thanks to my writers group for having read all of these. All of them are bitchin' fiction writers, but they are troopers and read all these and helped me edit through them. So, that just happened. Okay, so this is about New Year's and depression. Okay. Can I just say one more thing before I forget to say it? While I was praising Angela's writing of her record reviews, I forgot to mention that all of them are on her website for sale. And you probably want at least one of them. So, along with many other things. So, there's a little guide on the back there. Okay. All right. A new year. By the way, I'm not fucking around by saying this was depressing. I mean, this is bad. Just so you know. I'm not being I kind of breezed past it, but it was not a jolly thing. So, anyone else who has the not jolly thing, I'm with you. I feel you. Okay, a new year. From the muted TV, the young, podgy face of the newscaster, with canned seriousness, gestures to the umbrella-wielding crowds streaming behind him at the Valence Aqueduct. It is New Year's Eve. He presses his earpiece, growing enthusiastic in spite of himself. But it's a little while yet. Old year, new year, old city new to me, new cookies. I examine the packaging. Sesame seeds are big here, and hard to capture in a mass-produced photograph. Maybe people eat them here for good luck on New Year's. There's pork in Rome, black-eyed peas in the U.S. I could look it up, but my search engine has gone native and only tells me things in Turkish now. A military band pauses 5 stories below. Wheedling horns, drums rat-a-tat-tatting in unfamiliar cadences. I imagine unsettled wives of 19th century Scottish diplomats shifting in their seats, listening to this. Well, in any case, I rather like it. The band ceases and is replaced by a preliminary crackle and boom. Dousing the lights, I amble over to the window, crane my neck. The explosions trail off. Not time yet. I return to the carpet where I stretch and doze and watch the muted TV. We should go out, I tell myself, without conviction or self-reproach, just making small talk. Every trip, there's an appointment with the abyss. A detonation followed by a silence more comprehensive than just despair. This time it has landed on New Year's Eve, and I'm kind of glad, as it gets me out of my usual half-assed attempts at festivity. Still, I can't help being a tourist, even within the confines of the hotel. Scrolling through channels, I sample Turkish dance parties, the usual TV ladies with fluffy and lacquered and eventful hair, various reporters glancing significantly at their watches, pointing to New Year's at the Ataturk Bridge, the butcher this one, Dolmabahce Palace at Taksim Square. This, interspersed with stories that have the plodding, unremarkable feel of local news. This thing, picture of this other thing, no one is crying. But I do notice a good number of storefronts, trains, trams, homes are decorated with blue whites. I've been fixated on the color blue since I got here, and I wonder if the shade is somehow significantly Turkish, or if I'm just making it up. In the hotel, nothing is binging, nothing is bonging. The staff party 2 floors above is so muffled I didn't even know it went on. Rooms and elevators and hallways are empty. A half-hour passes, doubles back, and then hurries to make another pass, pulling another with it. A knock next door. I listen to the father of the Sri Lankan family answer, accept sandwiches from the bellhop. They speak in the uneasy middle ground of faltering English. Happy New Year, says the bellhop carefully. Happy New Year, repeats the father. The door is closed, and it is midnight. That's it.